We should not attempt to clear our conscience by arguing that the enemies of freedom come only from other cultures and beliefs, and that freedom flourishes unfettered in our own. The scenario that I described above has had the expected corollary of the reappearance in the Western societies of racist, xenophobic groups and an outbreak of nationalisms that we believe to be disappearing. These are our monsters, and they are not less malignant or dangerous than the imported ones. For democracy to function, a variety of political parties and movements must exist which represent the full ideological range of society. Naturally, it is essential that, if not all, at least an undisputable majority of these political forces share basic democratic principles. In the years following the two world wars, revolutionary parties existed in free societies of the right and of the left, which rejected the basic premises of democracy. However, they never had enough electoral support to take power, nor was there any risk it would fall into their hands. In Italy, for example, where the Communist Party became very powerful, these parties share certain quotas of power, yet never to the extent of threatening the system itself. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, it seemed impossible that everything similar would ever occur again. Nevertheless, the truth is that today, Europe is the scenario of an unsettling spectacle, the re-emergence of an extremist, nationalistic, xenophobic, and racist right, which does not believe in democratic principles and which has made the rejection of the immigrant, and especially those from Muslim countries, its motto. This has been particularly well received in the population sector most affected by the economic crisis and precarious employment. These movements deliver to them the Turk, the Moor, or the Black as the scapegoat responsible for all the country's economic woes, for the rise in crime, and also, of course, accusing them of being potential or current agents and accomplices of terrorist groups. These political forces, which in the past were no more than mere sects or splinter groups, are no longer that today. They have grown, increasing their electoral stock, and in many countries now compete on an equal playing field with democratic parties. Still worse, to take away these groups' voters, many parties of the left and center have let themselves become contaminated by these populist anti-democratic ideologies. Is there something that can be done to confront the monsters return of? Of course there is. Mobilized against them. Do not let them advance, and do not make concessions to those who now represent no more or less than in the past the negation of all that has been done to rise above barbarism, to make societies of the developed world thrive and become more humane. This was made possible through long struggles against obscurantism, fanaticism, prejudice, and ignorance, as well as through innumerable conflicts in which gradually and with the sacrifice of countless thinkers, writers, political leaders, union leaders, militant party members, and the common people, the culture of freedom began to take root in Europe and defeat its enemies. Thanks to that lengthy process, there exist open societies, human rights, political pluralism, freedom of the press, religious freedom, gender equality, laicism, and the rejection of all forms of racial, religious, or political discrimination. In none of these areas, and for no reason, should governments, organizations, or democratic citizens recant in the least or take a step backwards, because if they do so, they will betray the very principles of the culture of freedom. This cannot be the sole responsibility of governments. It concerns all citizens equally. It is urgent to address all initiatives which, masked behind pious pretexts such as respect for all cultures or solidarity with the oppressed, attempt to establish enclaves, communities or individuals that enjoy extraterritorial rights, accepting them from obeying the law, or rather authorizing them to break it, or to reintroduce in the political debate any form of racism and xenophobia, regardless of how it is disguised. Intellectuals, the media, scientists, opinion leaders, all those who have platforms to make themselves heard, and for that very reason know better than anyone the indispensable nature of freedom and democracy to guarantee progress and to ensure that life is breathable, have the civic duty to take action against the resurgent monsters and to firmly warn them, you will not prevail.